afternoon, guys. Hope you're all okay. As you can see, I've changed my name. My logo's changed. My name's changed. I want to do a true crime channel. That's all me and Tony watch is true crime. I did do my cleaning, but I couldn't do that anymore because I'm getting arthritis and I've got fibro. So when I put my heart into something, I go really passionate about it. And all me and Tony watch on YouTube is crime. So that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna start with the Watts family murders. I've watched it on Netflix, and it is truly heartbreaking. Them poor babies. If you haven't watched it, you go and watch it. It's just anyway. Let's dive in anyway, and you can hear about it. So it was August 13th, 2018, and it just began as a missing persons report, really. But it quickly became the most heartbreaking and the most shocking family murder case in recent history. A pregnant mum. Yeah, Shanann was pregnant. She was 15 weeks pregnant as well. She had 2 young daughters. They vanished without a trace. Literally, no one could get a hold of them. And the person who was pleading and who was going in front of cameras pleading for their safe return ended up being their murderer. So this is the story of the Watts family. So before we begin, it is important to remember that this story is about real people whose lives were tragically cut short. Shanann, she was 34. She was a devoted mother, a wife. She was 15 weeks pregnant, with a baby boy as well. And she and Chris were to name him Nico. Together, Shanann and Chris had 2 beautiful little girls, 4-year-old Bella and 3-year-old Celeste, and affectionately known as Cece. And friends and family described the girls as happy, loving. They just adored the parents. Like, I've watched Netflix, I've seen videos on YouTube of Bella and Cece with their dad, and he looks so happy. Like, for this to happen so tragically, it's hard to get your head around, because he does look like a loving dad. He looks like he adores them little girls. But to the outside world, the Watts family appeared to have a happy life. Shanann regularly shared family moments on social media, documenting birthdays, holidays, and everyday life. But behind closed doors, things were far more complicated. In one part of the episode on Netflix that I did watch, Shanann fell out with Chris's family because Cece was allergic to, I think it was peanuts, and they got told multiple times, do not have peanuts around here because it's dangerous. You have a peanut allergy, it's dangerous. And she never had a small allergy, she was massively allergic to them. And that's why she fell out with them. But anyway, it was August 13th, 2018. In the early hours of Monday, Shanann arrived home in Frederick, Colorado, after returning home from a business trip. She done that Thrive. And this is what makes me think as well, is this why Chris done what he done? Because he was chunky, he was quiet, he was shy. And then when Shanann done the Thrive, it gave you energy, it helped you lose weight. And he lost a lot of weight. He was working out, he was getting muscles. Is that why he went on to have the affair? Who knows? But anyway, and it would be the last time anyone other than Chris admitted to seeing her alive. And later that morning, Shanann failed to attend an important doctor's appointment that immediately concerned her close friend Nicole. Only for her, she just would not let it go, and good on her. She just would not let it go. She got the police. She repeatedly called, she texted, but she received no response. And you'll later find out why. When she arrived at the Watts family home, Shanann's car was still parked outside. Her shoes, her phone, her medication and her purse were all still inside the house. And for Shanann, that was completely out of character. And obviously with Nicole, because she knew that was very out of character, she rang the police and she wanted a welfare check, obviously, for her best friend. The shoes that were by the door, they were Shanann's favourite shoes. She never wore any other shoes, only these. They were the most comfortable shoes with her being pregnant. She wasn't well. She had lupus as well, so when she found these shoes and she absolutely loved them, and she wouldn't wear any of the shoes. So when Nicole seen them by the front door, she knew there was something wrong. So she did call the police for a welfare check. When the police got there, Chris still hadn't arrived from work. The police rang him and told him, he needed to come home. When he got home, he run up. Oh, is everything okay? No. Nicole looked absolutely shattered. She looked terrified. She looked scared. Shanann's car was still there. Her car seat was still there. But Chris was adamant that her friend picked her up and she'd gone out with a friend. But Nicole knew that wasn't true because the car seats were still in Shanann's car, and Nicole knows Shanann would not put her girls in a car without a car seat. So he was just too calm. He was calm. He was cooperative, but he was just too calm. When they got into the house, there was no sign of a struggle. And what else was worrying is that Shanann's bag was all there. A medication for her lupus was there. Her phone. Everything was just there. But what the police did notice was Shanann's bed. The sheet wasn't on the bed. And for investigators, that's a massive flag. It really is a massive flag. There was just no evidence there was no evidence that she'd planned to leave the house. There was no other friends that she would have went out with the girls. Only Nicole. And obviously Nicole was searching for her. And then what did Chris do? He decided to go in front of the cameras and I just want my family back home. I just want my girls home. He was smirking. He looked smarmy. He didn't look worried. He didn't look worried at all. He just seemed very detached. And a lot of people have said that from watching that interview myself, where he's given the interview. He does look very detached. Like there's nothing behind his eyes. He looks very detached. But at this stage, it was still a missing persons report that was going on. It wasn't anything other than they didn't know where they were. It was still a missing persons report. But one of Chris's neighbours, the police went over to their house, and because he had CCTV, and early hours in the morning, he seen Chris pull his truck onto the drive. Now he never ever the neighbour said Chris never ever put his car on the drive because Shanann didn't want oil on the drive. But that early hours that morning, he reversed his truck onto the drive with the garage door open. And if you look closely enough, you can actually see little legs, a little shadow of legs, which would have been Bella and Cece. It's chilling. It's very chilling. But the police watched that CCTV while Chris was standing next to them, and he's putting his hands on his head, and you could clearly see he was uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. He didn't know where to look. He couldn't look at the TV. He just looked uncomfortable. And the police and his neighbour got onto that. So when Chris walked out, the neighbour actually said to the policeman, he's acting strange. He's acting very, very strange. He's not like that normally. He's normally quiet, he's normally shy, he doesn't speak. But when he was watching that video, he was very out of character for him. So at this stage, I think the police started getting little red flags in their head that Chris knew actually more than what he was letting on. So I think at this stage, the investigators quickly shifted from missing persons to murder investigation, just by going off his body language. They interviewed Chris multiple times. They gave him a lie detector test, which he failed, by the way. They interviewed him over a few days, and the last time they interviewed him, that's when they done the lie detector, and that's when he failed. And of course, after hours and hours and hours, he eventually admitted to killing them, which is absolutely horrific. So it emerged that he had killed Shanann when she got home from her trip with Nicole. The girls woke up. Obviously, there must have been a scuffle, so the girls woke up. He killed Shanann, and I believe he thought he smothered the girls, but so pretty much he killed them twice, because he didn't actually. He tried, but it didn't work. So he done it again when he was in the car. He put Shanann's body in the car, in the footwell where the girls were sitting, which is... It's horrific to even think that them poor little girls were sat with their mum, passed away, right by them. Like, who does that? Like, he then put Shanann in a shallow grave in the oil. I'm trying to think what it was, where it was that he were. It was an oil company. It was an oil company, and he buried Shanann in a shallow grave. And then he smothered the girls again. And I believe Bella fought back because all the inside of her mouth was all cut, and I believe, that's what I'm saying, I believe, because this is what I've read and what I've researched, that Bella said, Daddy, no. Like, for a 4-year-old little girl to say, Daddy, no, are you going to do that to me, what you've just done to Cece? Like, that literally breaks my heart into two pieces. Like, that's so sad. And then after he's murdered his 2 baby girls, there's 2 oil tankers, and he drops them in the oil tankers, which is very hard to get your head around, because I'm pretty certain it was 10 centimetres round, and he had to squeeze them in. And to get them out of there, they had to obviously empty the oil tankers and then get their little bodies out, which is, oh my, like, it's not enough that you murdered them and you've put them in there. But, like, why? Why did it happen? So this is where I want to come back to Chris getting fit. He was looking after his body, and he started having an affair with someone called Nikki. Now, I don't know if she's involved. I watched it. I've watched her interrogation, and I don't know if she's involved or not. I don't know. I really, really don't know. They were experiencing financial difficulties, but again, you don't murder your wife, your pregnant wife, and your 2 baby girls. But I think, and a lot of people think, he murdered them so he could have a life with Nikki. And that just baffles. Why not just leave? Just walk away. He just wanted a new life. Get rid of them and start a new family with Nikki. That's what investigators were looking at. But again, only Chris knows every little detail of what happened that night, and what was going through his head. Like, what? But rather than going through a trial, he admitted that he'd done it. So Shanann, Bella and Cece and baby Nico were all killed by Chris Watts, and he admitted that. So he didn't have to go through a trial. And by admitting it, he avoided the death penalty. Now this death penalty, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not against it or I'm not for it. But me personally, I would rather that person be in the general population inside the prison getting beat up all the time rather than being on death row for 20 years in a cell by yourself. It's just the way I think. But today he does still remain in prison. And I have heard he's got photos of Bella and Cece on his wall. What? Like, I just, that, I can't get my head round why he done it, because I've watched videos of him playing with them little girls. I've seen videos of him with Shanann on videos, and he just, I don't know, it's just hard to, it's hard, isn't it? But how can someone destroy the very family that they once promised to love and protect? And but for Shanann's family and for everyone who loved Bella and Cece and unborn baby Nico, the pain, it'll just never disappear. It'll be horrific for the rest of their lives. You know, he's caused so much drama, so much trauma in people's minds, and it's, but as true crime viewers, it's easy to become fascinated by investigations and evidence and courtroom proceedings, but it's also important to remember that behind every case are real people whose lives mattered and still matter. So may Shanann, Bella, Celeste and Nico just never be forgotten. Yeah, it's just a horrific case, and I just don't think, I think that's going to be the worst case that I'll ever cover. It's just so sad. It's heartbreaking. But thank you for watching, and if you found the video informative and respectful, please consider liking the video and subscribing for more carefully researched true crime stories. Yeah, and until next time, stay safe and take care, guys.